Are you unknowingly an addict, tethered to a silent puppeteer? Don't feel singled out. In our hyper-connected world, most of us are dancing to its tune. Here's the chilling proof. Could you sever ties with your digital lifeline for just 24 hours? Or would the withdrawal symptoms reveal a deeper dependency? If you are willing to try this, you would be among a minority willing to do so. However, this willingness does not guarantee ease. In the initial hours, feelings of emptiness or unease might arise. You might imagine your phone vibrating in your empty pocket or instinctively reach for it while waiting. Yet, as the day progresses, a sense of liberation could come about. You might find yourself seeing the world with a fresh perspective, noticing details you never saw before. And your mind might feel more active than when idly browsing social media. By the end of the 24 hours, you may see a new understanding of your relationship with your phone and a heightened awareness of your usage habits. Nevertheless, realistically, old patterns might quickly come back, because as we know, many of us are in a state of unseen dependence. The brain's pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. Our reliance on these devices and other sources of instant gratification is not only the fault of the external stimuli, but is deeply rooted in how our brains function. There exists a delicate balance between pleasure and pain, a concept the brain inherently understands. Fundamentally, humans are driven to seek pleasurable experiences and avoid painful ones, making these two seemingly opposite sensations closely linked within the same neural circuitry. In the early stages of human history, discerning between pleasure, such as nourishment and shelter, and pain, like starvation and exposure, was crucial for survival. While times have changed dramatically, leading to an era of abundance rather than scarcity, this shift has not necessarily resulted in greater happiness. Paradoxically, data indicates a rise in unhappiness and depression in recent decades, even in affluent nations, despite living in what could be considered a peak era for humanity. The role of dopamine and the homeostatic seesaw. The reason for this apparent decline in well-being can be attributed to our potential over-reliance on the brain's natural reward chemical, dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter released when we anticipate a reward, playing a significant role in motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement. The interplay between pleasure and pain is more nuanced than a simple line. It's more akin to a balancing scale striving for equilibrium, known as homeostasis. For instance, encountering something pleasurable on a line, like an engaging video, triggers dopamine release, tilting the scale towards pleasure. The brain then initiates a counter-reaction, pushing the scale equally towards pain to restore balance. This can manifest as feelings of restlessness or anxiety. Instead of allowing this balance to naturally recalibrate, the tendency is to seek further pleasurable stimuli, creating a cycle. Like any substance, repeated dopamine release can lead to diminished effects and increased cravings. This underscores the recommendation to limit time spent on sources of instant gratification and instead engage in activities with long-term benefits, such as acquiring new knowledge. The modern overload and its consequences. In modern society, we are surrounded by readily available sources of immediate pleasure, be it sugary foods, social media, or other forms of easily accessible stimulation. The brain responds similarly, a surge of dopamine followed by a compensatory dip as it attempts to regain equilibrium. These significant dopamine fluctuations can lead to reduced motivation, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, and even symptoms of depression. Similar to substance addiction, repeated exposure to pleasure-inducing stimuli can result in the brain developing tolerance, requiring increasingly more stimulation to achieve the same effect, or even just to feel normal. Consequently, individuals might spend excessive time on their phones or indulging in unhealthy foods, driven by craving even when the pleasure derived diminishes. Our brains, which have not significantly evolved over centuries, are not equipped to handle the current hyper-availability of dopamine-releasing experiences, fostering a tendency towards instant gratification. This can erode our capacity for delayed gratification, problem solving, and tolerance for frustration, making us less able to cope with negative emotions. The anxiety felt when unable to check a phone, or the perceived waste of time in activities like walking compared to screen-based entertainment, are manifestations of this. Instead of processing and healthily managing negative emotions, the inclination becomes to seek another quick hit of dopamine. Breaking the cycle, dopamine regulation. Despite the potential for this to seem bleak, the dopamine released naturally by the brain is considerably less potent than the surge caused by most addictive drugs. This makes regulating natural dopamine responses more manageable than overcoming drug or alcohol dependence, although the underlying principles are similar. The initial step is cessation, consciously stopping the engagement with sources of instant gratification, such as excessive social media use, pornography, or junk food. Setting a period of abstinence, like 30 days, can be beneficial in allowing the brain to recalibrate its pleasure-pain balance. This period, sometimes referred to as a dopamine detox, is a form of cognitive behavioral therapy aimed at identifying unhealthy patterns and replacing them with healthier ones. Following this initial phase, these activities might be reintroduced in moderation. It's important to anticipate feelings of anxiety, irritability, or emptiness during abstinence, and to embrace these feelings as part of the process of recalibrating the brain's reward system. Paradoxically, seeking out discomfort, a Stoic principle, can be beneficial in fostering appreciation for the positive aspects of life. Engaging in challenging activities leads to dopamine release after the successful completion of the task, resulting in a more satisfying and lasting sense of reward compared to instant gratification. This requires conscious effort, as a significant aspect of unchecked dopamine seeking is its often unconscious nature. To reset the brain's dopamine levels, active engagement is necessary. While the pursuit of enjoyment is natural, the current environment can create an unrealistic expectation of constant happiness. Recognizing that sustained happiness is unattainable, and that experiencing a range of emotions is normal, is crucial. The problem lies not in seeking pleasure, but in the obsessive and elusive pursuit of constant happiness. Reconsidering our relationship with stimulation. Returning to the initial phone experiment, its primary aim was not merely to label one as dependent on dopamine, but to foster an understanding of how devices impact our lives. These devices serve as gateways to vast amounts of immediate entertainment, making it seem illogical not to partake. However, as with all things, there are consequences. We have, to some extent, lost the ability to be content in solitude with our thoughts, to maintain focus without interruption, and to prioritize what truly matters. The reality of our modern, overabundant world is that many are dependent on something for immediate gratification. Reflect on your own potential dependencies. Could you abstain from them for extended periods? Could you consciously override the natural inclination towards immediate pleasure and instead seek out experiences that might be initially challenging? The answer lies in the choice presented at the conclusion of this recording: to succumb to the familiar craving for another fleeting moment of stimulation, or to resist and engage in an activity that promotes long-term well-being and mental equilibrium. Understanding the importance of this balance is crucial for inner peace and overall happiness.